Hey listeners, did you know that Yogi Triathlete offers endurance coaching for body and mind? We offer personalized training plans for endurance sports, wellness and mindset, nutrition and recovery guidance, and race preparation and strategy, all within the supportive community of Team Yogi Triathlete. So if you're ready to conquer your fitness goals and push your limits, our endurance coaches are ready to guide you on the journey to peak performance. Go to yogitriathlete.com today to set up your free 30-minute discovery call and embrace a future of strength, stamina, and achievement. Your goals, our experience, the perfect match for unstoppable success. We live in a culture of giving up, and we live in a culture of quitting. And we live in a culture that will rally around you and support you in that. And we're not necessarily going to do that here at Yogi Triathlete. We are going to ad nauseum tell you to let your yes be yes and to show up to the race. And so if you're in taper and you're showing up to the race, you have already won. You have already moved mountains that the majority of people are not willing to move.
Lean into possibility. You can do anything you want and you can have everything you want, but you have to be willing to detach from the timeline and trust that when you lean into more things that bring you joy or that light you up, eventually the scales will tip and the energy will be more so in your favor. But the evidence of now may not be what you expect. And you got to release the timeline. You have to release the timeline.
Welcome to the Yogi Triathlete Podcast. I'm Jess. I'm here with BJ, and this is our July O Show. We come together once a month to just riff on life. Sometimes as entrepreneurs, it's kind of the only time that we come together just to chat. So anyway, happy to have you here with us, and thanks so much for your support of the show. We've been going strong since 2016. It's kind of crazy to think about when we started the podcast. It was like Rich Roll,
Endurance Planet,
Yogi Triathlete. And did Michael Gervais have his back then? I don't even think he had his back then. So we've been going for a long time, over 400 hours of just education on living, finding, and looking for your purpose in life, amazing guests, and lots of riffs from us as business owners, as athletes, as coaches, and as husband and wife. So thanks again for being here, you guys. Beej, thanks for sharing the mic with me.
Good to be here. 400 plus episodes, and my voice gets louder and louder as I continue to do these podcasts. If you go back to the beginning,
I can just sit back now and just let you talk. And
I don't mind anymore. I think at the beginning I was very quiet. If you go back, just finding my voice. So I found my voice. Here it is. You better listen to it.
And if you haven't listened to episode 1, that's always a good one to go back to. It is a good one.
Yeah. Also the one where your cousin interviewed us. That was a good one.
Yeah. There's another really good one from November of 2016 when we were in Arizona. Before we got to California, we were living out of our car, and I was completely paralyzed in fear. And I've gone back and I've listened to that one again. And that's a really good one,
and
too.
Why were you paralyzed in
because we had run out of states, and I was like, oh my God, we are literally I am going to step into a dream that I had since I was a little girl, which was a dream, a knowing. It was almost like an unfinished part of my life that I was going to live in California. And it's weird when you butt up against the realization of a dream. Like, fear of success is true and real. And I think it's because, we're just conditioned to always just be working so hard and going after our goals and our dreams. And there's a lot about keep dreaming, but there's not a lot about what happens when you're butting right up against the realization of your dream and the door is open and you're stepping into it. It's really scary. So I like that episode. I've gone back and listened to it as for help, self-help.
I think it's an important part of the process as you're speaking about bumping up against that and moving and taking the necessary steps to move forward. I feel most of us fall into the realm of, but I want to do that, but I can't. You don't understand. Like, I need to do this and I need to do that, and this is where I am, and this is where we talk about fighting for your limitations. And I just had a call with an athlete the other day about stepping into possibilities. Lean into possibility. You can do anything you want, and you can have everything you want, but you have to be willing to detach from the timeline and trust that when you lean into more things that bring you joy or that light you up, eventually the scales will tip and the energy will be more so in your favor. But the evidence of now may not be what you expect, and you got to release the timeline. You have to release the timeline. If you know anything about what I believe in, release the timeline was a pretty profound, I don't know, what do you want to call it? Profound statement, I guess, or energetic idea that I've clinged onto. And not to get too deep, but it just lessens the stress, lessens the the stress that you have to get it done. Just lean into the possibilities. Literally lean into the possibility of what could happen. But you're right. We all feed the lack. This isn't for me. I have dreams of doing it, but I have dreams of going to California, but you don't understand. It's too expensive. Can't do it now. Whatever excuse 3, 4, 5, 6, 100 is. And that's one way to go, for sure. But I don't know how many people, what your happiness and joy factor are. If that's the way you're living and you're dreaming and you're not, taking steps to move towards your dream. Because it will always be a dream if you don't actually take steps towards it and place it into manifestation.
It's a little bit of like a trapped in trying,
Ooh, that sounds like an episode from Awake Athlete.
It's an episode from the Awake Athlete podcast. I will put a link to it in the show notes.
So these are all things we've talked about, right? So go back, binge the Yogi Triathlete podcast, binge.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Awake
good stuff
Athlete.
there.
Yeah.
Actually just pulled my own book out of the closet, Awake Athlete, because I want to take it to Oregon. I can't believe I didn't take it to the Galapagos Islands. I took it to Patagonia and then I left it there. I just like to leave it and gift it. I left it for the Earth River crew. And I want to take this out to Oregon. And I read this book. I read it multiple times when I was writing it, but I read it when I came home from Patagonia because it really helped me. That integration was rough. I don't know why. There's just a lot of unfinished business, I guess, down there, which is why I'm going back in February with a new crew of guests. But yeah, I'm going to read this book again. And I've listened to some of our podcasts again, and I've listened to the Awake Athlete podcast time and time again. It's all helpful because even when you own a company like Yogi Triathlete, it doesn't mean that we're immune from challenges. But if you're going to be challenged in life and you're going to have high highs and low lows, you might as well be doing what you want and living where you want to live and stepping into the person that you really want to be. It helps a lot because I think it gives you resolve. Because you realize, like, how many times you and I have just looked at each other and been like, we have to keep going because nothing else makes sense. Like, what am I going to do? I'm going to go get a job somewhere and not be a mindset coach and not have the Yogi Triathlete podcast and not facilitate space for people to shift their lives in monumental ways. We have to keep going. We've been challenged greatly and we've been rewarded profoundly. And when you have that purpose, it just gives you this unshakable resolve, but it doesn't make anything easier.
No, we have constant. I was just talking to an athlete. I feel like I always say that, but it's true.
Well, because we were talking to athletes. That's part of your coaching. You are accessible to your athletes and you have a lot of calls with athletes.
And I do a lot of lives with our group and now with the team Rippy, Rhode Island Power Yoga. Like, I'm speaking a lot. I can't remember the things that I say, but there is a thread that touches upon that we've figured it out and we've got an easy path. And that's not, I don't believe that that's what we do. Like, we are the same as all of you with working through challenges and struggles and brick walls. It's just the way that we navigate it.
Well, I think we have figured out a recipe.
Yeah.
We have figured it out. Now it's just applying it to challenge after challenge, to joy after joy.
Yeah.
Right? Not clinging to the joys and repulsing what doesn't feel good, but applying that same recipe to everything.
Yeah. I mean, I remember I had a restless night the other night, and I just went back to my working my breath, working mantra, working to fall back to sleep. And it reminded me of the night before Oceanside, I think 2 or 3 years ago, when it was the ocean start. And I had a restless night's sleep. And it was just, I didn't plug in anything. I just worked with it that night. I worked with it. What does that mean to work with it? I kept coming to the thought of big waves and cold water. And I just shifted my attention to, I think it was my breath, or like intentionally focusing on calm, the word calm. And then the thought would pop up about the water again. So it's relentless, but it's not all the time. But when it does show up, I go into my toolbox, dig deep sometimes, and pull out the tools to use to find that calm. So it's always a breath away. Calm is always a breath away. Always. It's that close.
Yeah, I had just to share a similar but not similar or whatever. I woke up this morning and I could, you know how you can tell it's the morning? I knew it was the morning, but it was like early morning. And I didn't have to get up like early morning, like 3 or 4 in the morning this morning. But my mind was up and it wanted to be productive. And I was like, I don't know. Let's not be productive right now. Oh, well, yeah, actually, let's be productive. Let's be productive on expanding gratitude in our life. And so and this is it, right? Like this is the mind training and also the fruits of the mind training, that I can lie there and instead of just churning through, oh, I should do this, I should do that. Oh, no, I didn't. Oh my God, I told that person I was going to get back to them. I didn't. Oh, that's so funny because I just actually, as I'm saying that, I just remembered.
Oh, for real?
For real. I told somebody I was going to email them yesterday and I haven't emailed them yet.
So if you're listening to this, your email's coming.
And you're expecting something from me, I just remembered it. But I just lied there and I was like, this bed is so comfortable. Thank you for this bed. And these sheets are so soft and the fan is blowing cool air on my body and my head and my neck feel really good on this pillow. And I'm really grateful for the pillow that I have under my knees because that's making me feel extra comfortable right now. And I'm really grateful that I can hear the birds sing. So I do know it's morning and they just started singing. And I love that they sing every day without any need for reward. And then eventually I fell back asleep. But, in that time, I just, like you said, I just opened up the toolbox and was like, oh yeah, let's use the gratitude tool. That feels like a good one.
Gratitude. I just talked to an athlete who used this today. They were working through a tough run, struggle, and they literally in the final miles final minutes where I was, had a progression for them. It wasn't going well, so they simply just shifted to gratitude every minute. Who could they be grateful for? What could they be grateful for? And I said, gratitude and love are like the 2 highest energies. They're super high. They're way up here. And if you can continue to focus on them, you're going to be moving yourself closer to up here versus that low energy.
And you're doing so much more than like what meets the eye in those moments, because you're actually like, think about a gratitude practice as a mantra. You're actually making positive grooves in your brain. You're creating neural pathways that it's going to be easier to return to gratitude in the future when you need it. And that's probably why it was easy to shift to gratitude in the early morning hours this morning when I wasn't ready to get up, because I've practiced it and I've paved those grooves over the years. And then you're also affecting your energy, and your energy is what matters most, because that's what the universe or the cosmic consciousness or God or whatever you want to call it is answering at all times. So, to folks who feel like maybe like, when am I going to get a break? Like, I can't get a break. And I felt that too. Like, I understand that. And I felt that actually in the recent past. My mind falls sometimes. But I have this understanding now that it's like, I'm the one that's going to give myself the break in how I'm responding in this moment. And so sometimes you do need to stamp your feet and scream and things like that. But when you're done doing that, like, move on. You're the one that's actually in charge of giving yourself a break. So, there's so much more than meets the eye. It's not just some woo-woo, like, get through the run practice. You're really paving the way for giving yourself more reasons to feel grateful and to feel grateful easier in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to practice it. There's no shortcut. There's no book you're going to read. You still have to take action on whatever you read, right? You still have to take action and put it into practice to move through whatever whatever you're working through. You have to practice it, and it's uncomfortable. I work through a lot of uncomfortableness on my run, physically, bike, and swims. I work relentlessly in triathlon on my struggles every day.
And what a great...
I just want a break.
What a great tool endurance sports is.
I know.
That's why
we're here.
Yeah, that's why every athlete is tailor-made to be a yogi triathlete. Mm-hmm. To really merge the science of the mind
with dynamic swim, bike, and run training.
With dynamic swim, bike, and run training.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I can't see it any other way.
And adventures.
And let's get to adventures.
Yeah.
Speaking of adventures, the Galapagos. You just got back.
Yeah.
And you're going back.
Yeah.
And we're going back.
Yeah. Yeah. Booked the trip before I even went. I recall before I went to Patagonia and before I went to Galapagos, I was on the phone with Jen, who owns Travel Yogi, and she said, Patagonia is all about nature. It is just the most magnificent nature you have ever seen in your life. It will take a piece of your heart forever, and it will call you back, and you'll never forget it. And she said, and the Galapagos is all about the animals. It's all about the animals. And same thing. It will take a part of your heart, and you'll take a part of it, and you'll never be the same. And the Galapagos was all about the animals. It was unreal. And it's just like Patagonia, a very pristine and pure and healthy part of this earth, which is, I think, so important for us to experience, to remember that there are really healthy areas of this earth that exist.
Well, can you riff for me for 1 to 2 minutes on what you experienced in terms of wildlife there? Like, just kind of like, if someone's like, well, what can you see there? What will you interact with? Like, you've shared it with me many times, so go for it. Here you go.
Well, it was the animals, but also understanding the really unique experience that you get as somebody on the Galapagos Travel Yogi Yoga Adventure when you stay at Montemar, because Montemar is on the migration path of the giant tortoise. And when I tell you, there are giant. Once their shell gets to be about 2.5 feet in diameter, they're over 100 years old. And there are giant tortoises everywhere. And then there's some that are smaller, like probably 60 years old, 70 years old, 80 years old. They're still giant. And so what we learned when we were there was, people come to the Galapagos to see the giant tortoises, and there's literally 2 places on the island to see them besides Montemar. But you can't just go to Montemar and see the tortoises. Like, it's a private, it's a private estate. And so you can see them at the breeding center, at the Charles Darwin Breeding Center. You can see them there, but you can't get up close to them. They're so protected. And then you also can see them at the place where we went and saw the lava tunnel, the lava tubes, which was that was one of my favorite days. And they roam freely there. But we live amongst them. You live with them. They're outside your door. You're having coffee with them in the morning. So the giant tortoises is boom, right off the bat, giant tortoise everywhere. To the point where it's amazing how you see how quickly you adapt. Because you're walking down the path to the Yoga Palapa and there's 5 giant tortoises, and you're kind of you're doing Frogger. You're walking in between them and they're just on the trail and they're not threatened by you at all. And they're as I'm teaching, I'm seeing them walk by behind the students. So giant tortoises everywhere, and that is so special to be able to stay at Montemar. And then we went to Tortuga Bay, and it was kind of I guess it's that lack mentality. I'm thinking, I hope we see some sea turtles. And we go out on kayaks, and it was sea turtle at 12 o'clock, sea turtle going under the kayak, sea turtle over there. There's 5 sea turtles over there. And you're the abundance actually is hard to comprehend. The abundance is hard to metabolize, how many sea turtles there are. And you're in these kayaks. And then, we're just swimming in Tortuga Bay, and there's sharks, white-tip sharks. And they're just chilling by the mangroves. And so you're 2 feet away from, I don't know, a handful of white-tip sharks or one white-tip shark, whatever's just chilling out there. Blue heron in their nest with their babies. It was baby bonanza there. So that was Tortuga Bay, was sharks, sea turtles, blue herons, of course, marine iguanas, and then octopus. I was I think that's an octopus right there. And that really sums up the trip. Were those flamingos that just flew by? Where'd those flamingos go? Oh my God, there's penguins. I think that's an octopus. And so those were things that weren't on the itinerary. We were just it was taking a nap on this white sand beach. You're on this island. It was one of our boat days, and they pull over and you get to go on this white sand beach. And some people were snorkeling, swimming with sea turtles, and I just needed a nap. And I woke up to someone saying was that a flamingo that just flew by? And we all got up and we were where's the flamingo going? So we followed it. We're the only people on the beach. And we go over this little hill, and there's this gorgeous lagoon with these flamingos, and they're feeding because they eat shrimp. And they're feeding on the shrimp in this beautiful lagoon. And I'm just what the heck is going on? Penguins, we saw 4. I guess we were very lucky to see the penguins. They're the second smallest of the penguins that exist in this world, the Galapagos penguins, and we saw 4 groups of penguins. We saw a double date where they were actually making the next round of penguins, which we'll see when we go back, I'm assuming. And then not only did we see them on land, but we saw them jumping down the rocks. So it was so cute. And then they jump and they're like torpedoes. They swim so fast. Sharks. The last day we went to Bartholomew Island, so you go to 3 different islands. I know this is way over 1 to 2 minutes, but you want to know about the animals. It just is nonstop. The animals is nonstop. And I was snorkeling with a dear friend of mine, Beth, who I've known since 3rd grade, and both of us just came up and she's like, this is the fish jackpot. It was every fish in every color that you could ever imagine, and every combination, and it was unbelievable. And they're just not threatened by you. At one point, there was this massive school of these gorgeous, black and yellow and orange fish. And I was I'm just going to be one of them. And I snorkeled over and I was just hovering over them. And then I realized they were all around me and I was in the school of fish. And so then we started swimming together. And that's what the sea lions do. And that's what the sharks do. And that's what the sea turtles do. You literally are swimming with them. Let's see what else. That one day, that last day, we came upon probably 12 sharks just kind of chilling on the floor. And then there was one that was circling us. And we were all right, this is starting to feel a little weird. So maybe we should just move along. Let's see what else. We went to one island called North Seymour Island. And this is where you see the blue-footed boobies and the frigate birds. And the thing about the Galapagos is that you are seeing species that don't exist anywhere else on Earth. And it was baby bonanza. There was little baby birds. There was mamas sitting on the eggs. There was mamas feeding birds, fighting off the guys, like guys trying to like puff out their big red chests, these frigate birds. It's crazy, trying to mate. And the mothers are just like, I got my hands full. What else? Sea turtles galore. Giant tortoises galore, flamingos, penguins, sharks, fish, octopus, land iguanas, marine iguanas. It was, you could just have like a poker face, blank stare and not move your head at all. And you would see all the animals because they're everywhere.
What about dolphins?
Oh my God, the dolphins. So on the last day, and we see dolphins out here all the time, right? I've never seen anything like this. On the last day, we're going to Bartholomew Island, and we're in the middle of nowhere. And I'm on the stern of the boat. I was coming up from the bathroom, and I looked at like the wake, the boat was making, and I see these 2 dolphins like just jump sky high out of the water. And I was like, oh my God, dolphins. And so I kind of go up the side of the boat and all of a sudden I'm looking as far as you can see in every single direction is dolphins. Hundreds. And I looked at our guide, Pico, and I said, Pico, hundreds? He said, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dolphins. Mamas and babies jumping. There was like 5 on either side of the bow of the boat, like racing with the boat. It was, I was just screaming. Like I was completely outside of myself in that moment because I had never felt, I'm going to say I've never felt joy like that. It was otherworldly. It was absolutely, well, they described this trip as prolific, and prolific it most certainly is. And that's not even to talk about like the night sky. Like it was Patagonia-esque. Amazing night sky, like incredible sunsets. It was unbelievable. I feel so blessed to go back. And if you're listening to this, I hope you join us. It's a small retreat. We can only have 10 people. We have 3 rooms right now. And we do have one unique opportunity. My brother, who is fantastic, is looking for a roommate. So we have one male roommate I have him in a nice room with a private bathroom.
They're all nice rooms.
This place is, okay. Montemar, that's a whole other podcast. This place is unreal. Roberto and Reina, who are our hosts, built it as their dream home and raised their children there. And people said, you have to share this. You have to share this with the world. And so that's what they did. And they are leaders in regenerative tourism. So it's amazing to speak with Roberto about how they built the home. Really incredible. But anyway, my brother, Matt, is in need of a male roommate. So if you are a guy who's like, this sounds amazing, please join us. It's not just for women. It's not just for couples. Single guys, single gals, single they, thems, like everyone, he, she, whatever, her, him, everybody is welcome. But we do have that one spot for a male roommate. And then we have 3 other rooms left. We have one room that is for a couple, and I have about 5 couples that are quote unquote seriously considering it, but nobody's pulled the trigger yet. So that's always super fun to see who says, this is for me and my partner. Let's do it. So that one's going to go. It has a private bathroom, but all the rooms are amazing. And that was way more than 1 to 2 minutes.
For sure. It was like 20 minutes.
But I can't. Like it was beyond anything. I knew it was going to be awesome, but it's all the magic isn't on the itinerary. It's not on the itinerary. So
isn't that what we talk about? It's like, there's more than what you see. Like
you can look at the itinerary and it will blow you away, and you're going to say, this looks like an amazing trip. And the itinerary doesn't begin to even scratch the surface because it's all the magic It's Juan, the chef. It's Tiffany and Louisa, coming home from a long day on the boat and having cold lemongrass towels and infused elixirs and snacks, and they turn your bed down at night and they fold your clothes. Like, they're incredible. Like, it's all the things that are not on the itinerary that really make that trip. So it's like one of those things that you won't fully ever experience it until you experience it.
So when is it?
April 26th to May 3rd, 2025. Don't hesitate. Don't hesitate. It's a $500 deposit, and you can pay as you go. And as soon as you sign up, you get access to the travel app. And the travel app is the bomb.
Why?
Because it's got all these things on it it has a whole area to enhance your trip. So all these different documentaries to watch and articles to read and Spanish classes and all of that. It's got your day-to-day itinerary. Eventually they put your flights in there, so you get all your notifications for your flights. Like, everything is just housed in there. It's got the countdown of how many days, and it's just super exciting. I love the travel app. It's one of my favorite pieces.
So they can book now, right? Get on our website or get on Travel Yogi.
Yep. Get on yogitriathlete.com or Travel Yogi. Go to the Galapagos and book away. My friend, book away.
All right. We'll see you in April.
Yay.
Because I'll be there too. Both of us will be hosting this one. It'll be my first. Let's do it.
All right, let's switch gears. Enough about the Galapagos, but come join us. And BJ.
Yes.
Let's talk about taper. So BJ and I are both 10 days out from races. I'm doing Ironman Oregon. BJ's doing Ironman Lake Placid. By the time this episode drops, it'll be after those races, but that's totally fine because taper is timeless.
Yeah.
So let's talk about let's start with, we hear you've been talking to some athletes. You mentioned that a time or two.
I might have been, yeah.
What are the questions that are coming up, and what is the guidance you're giving them?
Well, one of the things that's has been coming through strongly is asking athletes to, I will send them my nutrition guideline of what I do the 48 hours before a race, and then what I do during the race. Like, write it all down, and you may stick to it, you may not, but the focus is like, make sure you've got a plan. Make sure you have some sort of structure to work with. And also, it's something you should have been practicing in your training all along. So great time in taper as training goes down, volume goes down, but intensity and frequency still remain, for the most part, consistent. You have time to do stuff like that. But also taking early rest days is another thing. So the 2 weeks leading into a race, that Monday of each week, no workouts or yoga or rest, read a book. Take that time to wind down, not have so many commitments, because as the week moves on, things are going to fill up and things are going to happen. So really important to dial that in. Yeah.
Okay. What else about, like, family commitments, travel? What else is coming up? Yeah,
travel too. Like traveling with your bike. Some people are traveling for the first time with their bike. They've always driven to races, but here's some tips on bike bags. There's a soft bag and a hard case. And if you use the hard case, as I'm finding out, the Bike Box Allen, that alone with the bike is about 50 pounds, and that's going to be what's least expensive on a flight for most flights. Start to go over that 50-pound mark, and you're an oversized load, and it can be over $100. So the soft bags are actually lighter than the plastic ones in the hard cases, so you can actually pack more things in there. So there's benefits to both. I've used both. You're using a soft case. I'm going to use a hard case. Putting plenty of padding around your bike, I think, is important. And don't focus on the lack. Don't focus on what could possibly happen to your bike. Keep feeding. Everything will work out perfectly. And if it doesn't, well, you will soon know, and you will then have decisions to make. But stay in that positive mindset that you've done everything possible to get your bike there, and then it's out of your control. Do the best you can. So do what you can, then detach. Kind of like what we teach when you go into a race. Like, do the work, have a plan, and then what happens is you just do your best and see what is produced on the day. And this is why we do this thing, because we're going to learn from it, apply it to our next experience, and maybe get a little bit better, and then a little bit better and a little bit better as you continually do this. So you can't expect to be perfect out of the gates. It doesn't exist. So that's one thing about travel. Also, family stuff, really important. If you're having family come to support you, I firmly believe that there's a discussion that needs to happen that says, hey, thank you guys. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate all the support, but I've got some specific things I need to get done and things I need to do, and I would appreciate your support in that. And that may mean I need to go off on my own. I may need to have meals at particular times. I probably can't go out to eat with you guys on, Saturday night. I need to eat early. I'm going to need to have my white rice, and then I need to wind down and kick my feet up. And having those discussions before you actually have to do it is really important, because your support crew is there to support you, and they most often will say, cool, yeah, great, we'll do our thing, you do your thing, awesome, we're here to support you, whatever we can do, versus springing on it in the last minute. And some people may see that as, well, you don't want to hang out? Well, you're there for a race, and you invested a lot of time and energy and sacrificed a lot of things in your life to bring yourself to this start line healthy and happy. So they will be on board. Just to have that conversation. It doesn't need to be awkward. Just be clear in what you want. So I think that's important. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think communication is really the pathway to good relationships. And I love how you put that your support crew is there to support you. Like, allow them to support you. And if there's feelings of like, well, I already took all this time away, and there's also recovery week after the race where you can spend extra time with your family, but you took all that time in your training to prepare you for the race, and the days before the race is not the time to drop the ball on that. And I think you'd be surprised at how much people love you. And if they don't understand, that's okay too, as long as you communicate it from your heart, openly, in a nice time frame, not, on the way to the restaurant when you're like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this.
It's too late then.
But give them the benefit of the doubt and communicate from a place of cut yourself into a calm space, especially if you're anticipating any, pushback, and own it. Also own it. You are strong. You have trained for a triathlon. You are strong. Own that strength in your mind and in your body and in your heart. And if you're confident and you're calm and you're open, I think you might be pleasantly surprised at how people respond to that. And if there is adverse response, it's not your responsibility. That just like as you're going to have highs and lows on race day, they're going to have highs and lows, and it's not your responsibility to save them, but to understand that what they're experiencing is exactly what they need to experience in order to overcome the adversity that they're feeling in their own mind. So I think open communication is huge. Yeah, really own it.
I feel like the food thing is the big, of course it's personal, right? What we eat, and we bump up against this early on when we move to be plant-based. But I think there's nothing more important, especially those days leading in, than to have a clear goal about what's going to go in your body that works well, and not introducing anything that is out of the realm. And that may mean you don't go out to eat. I can't say how long. I guess year has been years since we would go out and eat the night before dinner or 2 nights before dinner.
I don't think we've ever really done. I can't remember.
I remember one time I did with Craig Howie and Jen Howie up in Buffalo, and we had to find a restaurant. Craig had traveled the whole way from Longmont all the way up to Wyoming with Tupperware of pasta and all his meals prepped.
Craig was our first triathlon coach. He definitely led the example in definitely doing what he needed to do prior to a race. And he had young kids and a wife, and his parents were always traveling with him, and he always did what he needed to do.
Yep.
Yeah,
I took that to heart. Mm-hmm. I remember that. And we were trying to find a restaurant. We finally found a restaurant, and I had pasta, but I had to really ask the guy to just make it pasta and red sauce. And for some reason, I remember it just being a struggle. And then they had already eaten, so they were just sitting there. I had driven up with them, with Harrison. That's right. Harrison and I went, our other Golden. And so that was a lesson for me that said, man, I should control this. I should prepare my foods that I know work for me and take the necessary steps ahead of time. So now I travel with, the protein powder that goes into my morning breakfast. I travel with oats that are blended to make oat flour so I can make pancakes. And I travel with my own sports nutrition that I'm going to use on race course and before. And so the only things I need to buy are from a store that is packaged stuff, applesauce, soy milk, white rice, things like that. And so I've removed a lot of the questionable things. And it feels good. It feels like I'm not running around last minute and depending on other people or other circumstances to satisfy the expectations that I need to meet in order to show up at that start line the best I can.
And a couple hacks, we do the 2 night. Go ahead. You've got an idea.
No, I was going to say.
I want you to speak to it.
The hacks.
Please.
If we go to a hotel room that doesn't have, it only has a microwave, but we need a burner. We have a portable burner, portable electric, whatever it's called, 1 unit, that I can put a pan on. I'm just totally eating my words here. But we got it on Amazon. So it's a hot plate basically, and we can boil water and make our coffee on it. So we carry that with us when we go to hotels that we know they only have a microwave.
And another hack would be, the 2 nights before the race, we eat white rice with, typically we do basmati rice with avocado, a little bit of olive oil if we are here, but we're not going to go out and buy olive oil because there's plenty of oil and avocado and a little bit of salt. So if you're how am I going to get that? Well, look for a Mexican restaurant because they'll have white rice and chances are they'll have guacamole. And maybe you could I'm kind of the queen of this. If they have guacamole, then they have avocados. And so you could just ask them to buy an avocado off of them. You could do that. Also, any kind of Asian cuisine, they'll also have white rice. If you do vegetables, they'll also have vegetables. And you could just have those steamed, but we just keep it super simple with fats and carbs and no vegetables or fiber leading into the race. So also think outside the box, keep your mind open because I know we've done that in Lake Placid, BJ. I've gone to that little burrito shop and just gotten you white rice before.
Wyatt's Burritos,
yes, in Lake Placid. So there's also that option as well. Think outside the box.
Even Chipotle, just get white rice.
I'm a big fan of convenience, as opposed to bringing the hot plate and all of that. That's fine too. But if I know there's a Mexican restaurant there or, somewhere I can just get white rice, that works for me. Totally. Yeah. What about mindset the week of the race?
Yeah.
I should have done more. I gotta go out and run 13 miles. What's that all about?
Yeah, that's just the mind wanting to solve a problem. And if it doesn't have one, it'll create one. So a mind that is, normal, I guess you could say. Everybody has these thoughts, has this untrained mind. That's why we train it every day a little bit so that we can use tools to shift focus away from that. So expect that to happen. Not once, twice, expect it to happen a lot. But expect also that you're going to have the tools necessary to move your awareness away from it so it doesn't consume your energy, because that's what it's doing, is consuming energy, and that's the energy you want to conserve the week leading into a race. So how do you calm your mind? You got to use your tools, shift focus away. There's nothing you can do at this point. And I say this to athletes a lot. There's really nothing you can do to get fitter in the weeks leading into the race, like the week and a half. But basically, there's things that you can do to really exhaust yourself. And that is a lot of stuff to do with the mind, not so much physically going out and hammering yourself. I think we all know you don't do threshold sessions or VO2 max leading into a race. But it's more so the mind and the catastrophizing of the mind that goes on. And when you're not doing training, occupying your physical body, the mind has space and time to try to figure something out. And it's going to create a problem to try and figure out. Well, if I had done this session, if I didn't sleep in and got this session in, or I should have done more hills because it's a hilly course, expect that. That's the mind, but you're not the mind. You've done your training, you've done and prepared yourself the best you can. So you show up healthy and happy on the race start, and you have a celebration day. You enjoy the moment. Pull yourself into as many moments as you can, as many pedal strokes, as many swim strokes, and as many steps on the run that you can take in, because that's what this is all about. But if that's a reoccurring thought that's happening in your mind, it's there for a reason. It's either because you're focusing on it a lot and practicing thinking about it, or it's pointing you in the direction that says, hey, add some more hills to your training the next time around. Like the days that you go out and run fast because you want that Strava record, ditch it and go do some hills and start satisfying that thought that keeps popping up, because then it will dissipate because you've given it attention. But most often the thoughts that we have are thoughts that we think about a lot. So if they're not helpful, time to shift what you're thinking about a lot.
95% of the thoughts we had today were the same thoughts we had yesterday.
And we have over 90,000 thoughts a day.
I know. So, it's a lot of thousands of thoughts a day.
So there's a lot of stuff happening. And especially in taper, when we're not moving the body as much. We get into routines. Routines are great. Patterns are great. We're training every day. We're doing something. When we stop doing that, or the volume of that, what happens? How do you show up? So taper, they call them the taper crazies. I think taper is a great time to dive into self-reflection. Spend more time with the mind. Mm-hmm. Sit quietly, not just once, not just twice, but maybe 3 or 4 times a day for a few minutes, and pull yourself back into calm. Mm-hmm. Because there's no difference between you doing that, thinking of all the thoughts during taper, and then you standing at the swim start of an Ironman and having all the thoughts. You still need to practice pulling your awareness away from that. Not trying not to think about it. It's shifting where your focus is. Mm-hmm. You have something you want to share?
Oh, do you think so? I've got my Awake Athlete book open to page 61. Because I talk about the 5th limb of yoga, which is the supreme science of the mind. And the 5th limb of yoga is Pratyahara. And so I'll just fast forward to what I wrote here on page 61, if you have the book and you are going to be racing, which the majority of you who are listening to this will be racing at some point. Read this page again. The week of taper leading into a race is one of my favorite times to practice this limb. I keep my power under control through Pratyahara by building energy without releasing my inner animal too soon. I withdraw my senses from social media chatter. I notice but do not indulge in the cravings I experience to expend unnecessary energy, or eat foods that will not serve my race day performance. Instead, I meditate more, turn my focus inward to stoke my fire. I feel sensation build inside me that peaks to a point where I think I may explode, and I practice pranayama to expand calmness. In that calmness, I have tremendous power to self-regulate. The stimulus builds and I practice not responding. It builds more and I practice not responding. I do what coaches instruct their athletes to do. I save it for race day. And Pratyahara helps me do that better than ever. And then I go on to just talk about a scene actually from Braveheart, which I think is a great example of Pratyahara, but it's being the master of your impulses and your sense control. And you said something earlier, which I really liked. Yeah, like I think right at the beginning you just said, it's just the mind.
The mind.
The mind.
Not your mind, the mind.
It's just the mind. Bob says that to us. Our meditation teacher says that all the time. He's like, it's just the mind. It's just the mind. That's it. It's just the mind. And you can respond to it however you want. And you are going to have thoughts of like, I should have done this or I shouldn't have done that. And something really constructive that you can do is get out a piece of paper, get your journal out and write these things. What should you have done? And then in your next training block, do them.
Do the things that you should have done.
Do them.
And even if they're things that don't work out, at least you know. You don't have to think about it anymore. You've actually had an experience with it. It doesn't work. Cross it off the list. You don't have to even think about that anymore. And when the thought pops up that says, oh, you should be doing hills, well, hills didn't work out for you. So why are we thinking about it? Move on to the next thing. So it works in both ways. Not only things that, help you. Well, they both help you move forward, but one thing you're going to actually execute continuously, repeatedly, and other things that you're just going to like cross off your list and never have to think about them again.
And, we live in a culture of giving up and we live in a culture of quitting. And we live in a culture that will rally around you and support you in that. And, we're not necessarily going to do that here at Yogi Triathlete. We are going to ad nauseum tell you to let your yes be yes and to show up to the race. And so if you're in taper and you're showing up to the race, you have already won. You have already moved mountains that the majority of people are not willing to move. So congratulations. And if you're thinking about like all the reasons why not to do the race that you signed up for, do the race that you signed up for. Keep moving forward until you absolutely cannot move forward anymore. Because once we start quitting, it makes it so much easier to quit, right? Like I said, like with the practice of gratitude, it works both ways. Your brain is neutral. The way our physiology is, it's neutral. So whatever we practice, it's going to be easier time and time again because of that efficiency that we're hardwired to lean into, right? Like once a set of neurons goes down a particular pathway, it's easier for them to go down that pathway. That's the law of facilitation. So whether that's quitting or finishing, whatever it is that you're practicing, it will be easier to do those things. So let your yes be yes. And if you are that person who's like, oh my God, of course I'm going to let my yes be yes, then continue to live that demonstration for others because people really need your strength and they need your example out there. So, congratulations to you.
You're on your way.
You're on your way. All right. Let's wrap it up.
Wrap it up.
Okay. You know why? Why we have to wrap it up?
We got to watch the tour.
Yeah.
We haven't finished watching the tour today. So we're back in the tour. We've invested in the tour. Let's go. Not to talk. Well, I guess we will. Let's go way back. We used to binge the tour back in the Lance Armstrong days. I would get up super early. I think it was on Outside or TV, Outdoor. OLN, the Outdoor Life Network.
Oh, yeah.
That's what it was.
That's right.
I remember going down in Boulder. I remember going down in the basement and watching it at like 3:30 in the morning. And then watching, because they would keep playing it and playing it and playing it. Yeah. I would keep watching it all day.
Yeah.
And then we're back in it now. I think you got me in this.
I am so addicted to the Tour de France. Yeah. I am so addicted to the Tour de France. So, and that's been going on for a couple years. I've been known to watch each stage twice. And then what happened was it started last month where I started to watch the new Unchained came out and in the Netflix series on Tour de France. And then in preparation for the season 2, I watched season 1, then I watched season 2. And then there was like a couple weeks before I went to the Galapagos. I was like, what do we do now? And then we went back and we watched all the extended highlights for all the stages for last year. And then I went to the Galapagos and then I rolled right into the tour. So I'm prepared for a big crash. No, because then I'm going to roll right into the Olympics.
Right.
And then I'm going to crash.
Then you're going to crash.
I have to get my toolbox out.
But we're loving the Nicholas Roach. And
yeah, we watched the World Tour.
Yeah, the World Tour feed. It's awesome. I'm so glad that we have the
if you don't
way to get in and watch it.
Yeah, if you don't know how to watch the World Tour and you want to watch the World Tour feed, shoot us a DM. We'll tell you how to do it. There's everything is figure outable, and thank you, BJ, for figuring that out.
Yes,
because I really appreciate Anthony McCrossan and Nicholas Roach, and
those two are great.
And their commentary. All right, so we're signing off because stage 12 is waiting.
Let's go.
All right, peace.
Viva la tour.
I love the countdown.
3, 2,
1.